On the cold, quiet night of November 13, 2022, in a small college town in Idaho, a heinous crime would shock the nation. 4 college students, full of dreams and promise, were brutally murdered in their own home. The case left the community shaken, authorities scrambling, and the world watching closely as a chilling story unfolded. But what happened that night? What led to the brutal murders of these innocent young adults? And how did the authorities uncover the person responsible for such a senseless act? This is the tragic case of the University of Idaho murders. Welcome to Crime Facts. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more gripping true crime stories and hit the bell so you don't miss any updates.
Moscow, Idaho. This sleepy college town had long been known for its peaceful atmosphere. Nestled between the rolling hills of northern Idaho, Moscow hadn't seen a murder since 2015. The town was home to the University of Idaho, a school known for its close-knit community and stunning natural beauty. It was a place where students came to learn, grow, and chase their dreams. But on that cold November morning, everything changed. 4 students were found dead in their off-campus residence, a 3-story house at 1122 King Road. Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Chapin were all victims of a brutal and senseless act of violence that would leave the entire town in shock and fear. What followed was a meticulous investigation that led authorities down a trail of clues, uncovering the dark truth behind these murders. But it wasn't an easy road. With no suspects, no clear motives, and mounting public pressure, the case seemed to get colder by the day. Until one man's obsession led to a breakthrough. Bryan Christopher Kohberger.
5 University of Idaho students had been living together in a rented house on King Road. It wasn't your typical college dorm, but a spacious home shared by 2 of the victims, Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Mogen, on the 3rd floor. Xana Kernodle and her boyfriend, Chapin, lived on the 2nd floor, while another surviving roommate stayed on the 1st floor. Kaylee and Madison had returned from a night out at a downtown bar. They'd visited a food truck before heading back home around 1:56 a.m. Xana and Ethan had also been out that night at a fraternity party and returned home around 1:45 a.m. By 2 a.m., everyone had returned to the house. At that point, everything seemed normal, but what would happen over the next few hours would turn Moscow into a scene of horror. Around 2:26 a.m., Kaylee Goncalves' phone made several unanswered calls to her ex-boyfriend, but he didn't pick up. At the same time, Madison's phone also dialed the same number 3 times. Authorities would later confirm that neither of them was involved in the crime. At around 4 a.m., Xana ordered food from DoorDash, and we know she was active on her phone until 4:12 a.m., just before she was attacked. Investigators believe that she was awake when the killer entered the house, but no one suspected what was to come. The 1st floor roommate who survived the attack later reported hearing noises from the 3rd floor that initially seemed normal, like Kaylee and her dog moving around. But it wasn't Kaylee. She heard a voice she didn't recognize, saying, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." As the horrifying events unfolded, this roommate would witness the killer and his eerie movements, but at the time, she couldn't comprehend what was happening.
At approximately 4:17 a.m., security cameras outside the home captured disturbing sounds, whimpering, a loud thud, and a dog barking. The surviving roommate stepped out of her room and saw a man dressed in black clothing and a mask, walking past her, heading toward the sliding glass door in the kitchen. She froze in shock, unsure of what to do. But she could hear more cries, more distress from the 2nd floor. The killer, having completed his gruesome work, exited through the back door, leaving the scene of horror behind. The 2 surviving roommates locked themselves in their bedroom, terrified, trying to call their other roommates but receiving no answers. Hours passed, and the 2 terrified young women finally called for help at 11:58 a.m., over 7 hours after the murders. They claimed someone was unconscious, but by the time the authorities arrived, it was too late. The 4 students had been stabbed to death in their beds. The murder weapon, most likely a large fixed-blade knife, was never recovered, but the brutality of the attack was evident in the wounds. Xana Kernodle had over 50 stab wounds, and Kaylee Goncalves had more than 20. There were no signs of sexual assault, and nothing seemed stolen or out of place. But one crucial piece of evidence would lead to the killer: DNA.
Authorities began their investigation with few leads. The initial probe raised more questions than answers. There were no signs of forced entry into the house, and the victims hadn't been restrained. But as they searched the crime scene, they discovered DNA. 3 unidentified male DNA samples, one of which was found on a tan leather knife sheath near Mogen's bed. This was the breakthrough investigators desperately needed. As the investigation progressed, authorities expanded their search. Surveillance footage revealed a white Hyundai Elantra near the victim's home on the night of the murders. The car made several passes along the same route near the residence, and at 4:20 a.m., it sped away from the area. It didn't take long before investigators zeroed in on a potential suspect: Bryan Kohberger, a 28-year-old PhD student from Washington State University in Pullman, just 8 miles from Moscow.
Kohberger was a criminology student at Washington State University. He had been living in Pullman, Washington, but he had close ties to the small town of Moscow. Kohberger had even been pulled over by state police twice for tailgating in Indiana during his trip to Pennsylvania for the holidays. Authorities tracked Kohberger's cell phone, and it was revealed that his phone had pinged near the victim's home multiple times around the time of the murders. Cell data showed that Kohberger's phone stopped connecting to the network near the victim's home, only to reconnect hours later in a different location. Further investigation into Kohberger's vehicle revealed that his car matched the description of the white Elantra seen near the crime scene. His DNA was also found to match the samples recovered from the crime scene. In late December 2022, Kohberger was arrested at his home in Pennsylvania. He was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary. What followed was a tense wait as authorities prepared to take Kohberger to trial.
In the weeks and months that followed, Kohberger's trial became a public spectacle. The nation was riveted by the details of the case. On May 17, 2023, Kohberger was formally indicted, and the prosecutors announced they would seek the death penalty for his actions. But in a surprising twist, Kohberger made a plea deal in June 2025. In exchange for avoiding the death penalty, Kohberger pled guilty to all charges against him. On July 2, 2025, he was sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences in prison without the possibility of parole. He was also given an additional 10 years for burglary and was ordered to pay a combined fine of $250,000. With this guilty plea, the case came to an end, but the pain for the families and the community remains. In the aftermath of the tragedy, the University of Idaho took steps to honor the victims. The house where the murders took place was donated to the university and demolished in December 2023. A memorial garden, the Vandal Healing Garden, was opened in 2024 to pay tribute to the 4 students who lost their lives far too soon. In May 2023, the university awarded posthumous degrees to the victims, and scholarships were established in their names, ensuring that their memories would live on.
The University of Idaho murders left an indelible mark on the community and the country. What seemed like an ordinary college town was forever changed by the brutality of that night. The victims, Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, will always be remembered as bright young people with limitless futures, tragically taken from the world far too soon. The case also serves as a chilling reminder of the evil that can lurk in the most unsuspecting places and the lengths to which investigators will go to seek justice. Thank you for joining us for this unsettling true crime story. Don't forget to subscribe to Crime Facts for more stories like this one, and hit the bell for future updates. Until next time, stay safe and keep seeking the truth.